Jane Tobias is a registered nutritional therapist and a lecturer at the University of the West of Scotland, currently programme leader for the Master of Public Health degree. She's in the final stages of a PhD examining the immune properties of probiotics. So I'm really delighted to see you here tonight, Jane, and fascinated to hear your talk.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen if I can get it to come up. 2 seconds. Should be up in a second. All right. So thank you very much, David, for the introduction. And it's really, really nice to be here. Obviously, I would have loved to have been with you in person, but you know, this is just as good, isn't it? We're all keeping cozy and warm, and they don't have to give me travel expenses. So that's quite nice. When we were talking about this, we were thinking about what is the best approach for keeping healthy. And I came up with some ideas, and I'm going to share them with you tonight. Just a little thing I want to say at the very beginning is that the information I'm giving you is general information. It's not specific for you. It's general. You can take what information you like from it. But what I would say is if you have any changes that you wish to make to your diet, you must contact your health provider or your GP. And please do not stop any medication. Don't take any supplements or anything like that without your GP's advice. So that's what I always like to tell people at the beginning, because this is general information for you to look at. So keeping healthy in challenging times. Well, let's get started. So what am I going to cover tonight? So I thought I'd go through a few different outline of what I'm going to do, and then I'll guide you through each section as we go. So what is the immune system? I'm going to give you a brief overview. It's not going to be major science, don't worry. I just think that everyone just now is really interested in the immune system. So I thought we would bring a wee bit more about that, just to give you a little bit more background. Then I want to look at some nutrition and some nutrients, but I'm focusing on the immune system because I want to just give you some little heads up, a little bit of advice about where you might find the best nutrients for the immune system. I will talk about supplements and I will mention therapeutic use, but as I said, you really do have to make sure you get advice from your GP or your health provider before you do any changes to your diet or take any supplements. Or you can also ask nutritional therapists too. I'm also going to talk about ways to incorporate any of these nutrients into your diet so that you are going to be able to take away something hopefully quite helpful for you. And then also a few healthy lifestyle ideas. So it's not just going to be about food, it's going to be about the healthy lifestyle. As a nutritional therapist, when I'm talking to clients, I tend to not just talk about food, we talk about what's going on in their life because it's so important to think about other factors that can affect your health. And we know one of them at the moment is probably stress for a lot of people. Okay, so let's move on to the immune system. Let's just check this is clicking. Here we go. Oh, a little picture here. Sorry, this is just a few of the organs of the immune system. And maybe you'll know some of them, maybe you'll not. But as you can possibly see that, I'm just going to put my screen down. Sorry, I wanted to move my picture out the way because I wanted to just to quickly go over some of that with you. So yes, it may surprise you that there's quite a lot of organs in the immune system that are not the most obvious ones. Some of them you'll know about, but some of them you won't. But I'm not going to go into that in great detail. I just thought it'd be quite interesting to have that as an overview. So moving on to the immune system. Now this is science alert time, so it's just to say that I will be doing a little bit of science, but not tons, so don't worry. Okay, what does the immune system do? Well, you probably all know this. It protects the body, doesn't it? It stops any threats from overtaking the body and keeps you healthy. What it's doing is it's recognizing and removing threats that it knows could possibly cause you harm. And what's really good about the immune system is that there is within the human system different types of immune cells. And what they can do is they can remember and prepare for future threats. So I thought we'd talk a wee bit more about the immune system and link it into what we know about the virus just now, because I think that's also quite an interesting area to look at. So we have in our bodies physical barriers against things. We call them pathogens. So we have the physical barriers of our skin and like mucous membranes in our mouth and our eyes and our nose and our mouth. We also have chemicals that work with that are quite quick acting. and they tend to be in these areas. So when we're talking about all the different swabs that we know are being used to test for the virus, that's why, because in our immune system is very active in our mouth and our nose. And doing things like sneezing will get rid of some of these pathogens quite quickly. And obviously things like, saliva and also running noses and blowing your nose, these all can get rid of these quickly. We get rid of them quickly and make sure that they're not kept in your system. So we also have this slower version, which is where the antibodies adapt to this challenge and they remember it, so that the next time you get challenged by this pathogen, you then have a memory and the body doesn't take quite so long to make the antibodies, and that prepares you. And that's the basis of vaccines. And I wanted to just show you a little bit, a picture you may have seen. Now, this is a representation of any virus. It's not the one that we're particularly talking about. But these are Y-shaped molecules, and these are actually antibodies. And they're very clever because they have on them sensors and they can sense and detect all of these little bits of material. Some of them are proteins, which you might have heard being talked about. So these will be made especially because of this challenge that the body has had from this particular pathogen, whatever it may be. And that's quite a good thing to know, that your body is actually making sure that it's ready for you the next time, that hopefully you'll get a quicker reaction. So that's what a vaccine's about. And I thought I'd then just add a wee bit about the vaccine, not tons, because I know people are probably a bit fed up hearing about it on the news. So this is one of the vaccines, which is the RNA vaccine. Now, I'm not going to explain what RNA is, but I'll just give you a little infographic about what it actually is. So you have this particular inoculant. Well, let's move this. Can't, right, doesn't matter. And inside there is what's called a little bit of RNA, which is injected into a person. And that makes the system start to produce these antibodies, because this is not known to the body. It's foreign, or it's what's called non-self. And then it starts to produce these antibodies to this particular foreign piece of material, wherever it's come from. And when it's producing them, they're there in the background. And there are also some other cells there too involved that are called T cells, which is why we have T's everywhere. And then if there is something like the coronavirus coming in, then the antibodies and T cells are ready. So you'll know when you've had your vaccine that your body is ready for any threat like that. And it's a quicker response than if you haven't had it. So I just thought I'd give a little bit of background with that. Now what I want to move on to is talk about the nutrients involved. So we'll take us off all the vaccines and all that sort of stuff and talk about immune system nutrients. Now, you probably know quite a lot of this, because when we hear people talking, we often hear phrases that we recognize. And one of the most recognizable phrases, I think, when we talk about immune system is antioxidants. You might have heard that term. So antioxidants are against chemicals that oxidize or damage the body. And we have there's a top three actually within that you probably know very well. And number one is vitamin C. Now, vitamin C works with two other vitamins in a very concerted manner. And vitamin C is the boss, essentially. That's the one that does all the work, but it's also the boss, and it gets back up from the other two, which you probably will know when I show you them. Vitamin C is particularly good for preventing and shortening infections. Now, we also have another of its gang, which is vitamin E, and together with A, they all work in concert to get rid of some of these nasty oxidants or chemicals that can cause damage. And some of the chemicals that we know, and you may have heard of this as well, are also linked to damaging diseases like cancer. So these particular big three, ACE, you can call them, they are very important. And I'm going to point out where you can get them in your diet. Another very important vitamin you'll have heard of quite a lot is vitamin D. I'm going on a little bit to talk to you about all of these vitamins and explain where you can find them. And vitamin D has got some properties, also antioxidant, as you have seen, it's in that column, but it also has some fantastic anti-cancer properties that have been found to be quite positive in the research. Also, it's a very important sunshine molecule, which you probably know about as well. We get it mainly from the sunshine. And the last of the antioxidant vitamins, which is number 5 here on our list, is folic acid or folate. And given the name, you probably guess it's coming from green foliage. And it does indeed. It comes from a lot of dark green leafy vegetables. So I was really enjoying this summer growing kale in my garden, and kale is particularly high in folic acid and vitamin C. So it's it's one of these superfoods, which again, you might have heard of that term. So along with the antioxidant vitamins, we've also got minerals. Now, this is not necessarily the way you're going to eat them, but you will be aware of these. We know iron. Iron is one that most people know about. That's what it looks like in real life. We don't eat it like that, do we? And we've also got selenium, which is looks kind of like that. And we have zinc. They actually all look pretty much alike, don't they? Like I was looking at them thinking, okay, but they all look alike. Now, minerals tend to be things we need in smaller amounts than vitamins. So they're trace elements, they're called. And these trace elements work for the great part of the time with enzymes. And enzymes are great little chemicals that speed up reactions. They allow us to digest our food quicker because we as human beings require a lot of energy. So we can't wait for things to just break down naturally. We have to use enzymes. So these enzymes, these are part of the enzymes that we need for many systems. And they're also, in particular, when we're talking about the immune system, they're also really important because they work with the antioxidant vitamins. So they're very beneficial to include in your diet. So you can see there's quite a lot of different areas that you may know that there's foods that you could probably have. And the other thing I want to point out is sometimes people talk about food and think that there's only one nutrient in it. There's not. In most foods naturally found or grown, there's maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, even more than that, all together in different values. But it means that you can combine different foods and you get lots of different nutrients out of it. I hope you're all still with me. This is the point I'd be saying, are you all still there? You're not falling asleep? I can't see anyone, so I do hope you can. You're with me. Right, let's find out where we can find vitamin C. Probably you know this as well. A lot of people think about oranges. That's normally what people will say to me. Oh, we get lots in oranges. Oh dear. Well, the truth is you don't. There are better sources of vitamin C that you can actually take in your diet. And one of them is through peppers, red and green peppers, the bell peppers that you get. I don't think we would eat enough of the chili peppers to really give us a large enough dose of vitamin C, but there's nothing to stop you having them in your diet and adding them in as well. So red and green peppers are a great source. Just a picture in case you didn't know what they were like. Kale, I mentioned earlier, strawberries, and onion and garlic, believe it or not, and also mushrooms. So you have a lot of really good sources there. Now, that's not just the only sources. These are the ones that contain the most vitamin C. So if you're going to try and boost your vitamin C intake, then make sure you have some foods. Now, one of the things I eat a lot of are onion and garlic, but I also eat a lot of mushrooms. And the reason I've starred mushrooms is that even the humble white button mushroom has got some fantastic nutrients. And I want to point that out to you later on. But it's very weird. Most people don't think that vitamin C can be found in mushrooms. They think of other things. Okay, I'm now going to talk about vitamin E. Vitamin E, where do we find that? I think most people will know that it comes in oils. So oils and fats are a great source of vitamin E. So plant foods, so you're talking about things like avocados, almonds, pecans, walnuts, sunflower seeds, and oils. And there are many other that you do have vitamin E in. And if you look at that picture, you can see there's quite a lot of different nuts and seeds there. And vitamin E is a very important fatty vitamin, and as you can imagine, because it comes from these fatty foods. And it's a really lovely vitamin for maintaining your skin as well, and your hair and your nails. Very important for that. So whereas most people will think of just that kind of aspect, it's also really important for your immune system, which I'm going to come on to. So let's go on to another vitamin. Where do we find vitamin A? Now, vitamin A is a fun one because you can get it in a couple of different forms. But the one form you're probably quite aware of, maybe you don't know it's got vitamin A, are things like orange, yellow, and red vegetables and fruits, particularly, and the clues in the word, carrots. Okay, so carotenoids, it's a term of all the different colours. Now, vitamin A is produced from these orangey coloured vegetables and fruits, and it's the plant version of it. Of course, you're going to get it, as I said, in vegetables, and there's some more carrots, sweet squash, and sweet potatoes that are all orangey coloured. But of course, you can also get animal-based sources as well, and you are talking about all the different meats and so forth. So you will find vitamin A quite readily in red meats and beef and lamb and all the other meats, but you will be able to supplement that with the red and orange and yellow vegetables. Now the Italians have this crack. They know how to source this particular vitamin. It is in the plant form. It's very fat soluble. They're all fat soluble. And in fact, they have this lovely dish called peperonata, in which they stew red peppers, green peppers, yellow peppers, and that actually brings out the beta carotene. And it's the most gorgeous thing if you've ever had it. It really is lovely. And they know how to bring that out and make it very available. And you might hear me also say the word bioavailable, because bioavailable means the way that you can get it from biological foods directly. Take a quick glug of water. Oh, I can't forget eggs and chicken. A few pictures here of the kinds of sources of vitamin A. So as you can see, the coloured vegetables and fruits like sweet potato, mangoes, peppers, melon, peaches, apricots, they're all really, really good in terms of these orange, red and yellow carotenoids. There's carrots there as well. I did actually know somebody when I was studying at university who decided she wanted to have a lot of beta carotene, which is the carrots version of vitamin A. So she just kept eating carrots, and she came in one day and her hands were bright orange because it's a very strong pigment. And I think it looked a bit like she'd had a fake tan done badly on her hands. So she actually realised that maybe wasn't the best thing to do with it. And it's not good to have too much of one thing. It's not good to do that. Right, moving on from vitamin A, where do we find vitamin D? Now, vitamin D is one of these vitamins that's mainly synthesized from the sunshine, and its precursor molecule is cholesterol. Now, cholesterol is one of these controversial molecules that has been thought of as a baddie. It's not. We need it. It's part of our body's makeup, part of our skin, and it's obviously important so that we have it there for making vitamin D. So you'll take the advice of your doctor, but all foods that contain cholesterol are not bad for you. So you've got to be careful with that. But remember that that's where it comes from. So if you didn't know that before, hopefully that's helped you understand that. There's small amounts in foods, and I'll show you a picture of the foods that it does come in, but they're very small. And some of them are fish, avocado, nuts, seeds, and there's my mushrooms again. Some people might need to supplement this in winter. We don't have the greatest sunshine in winter, and I was desperate to get out when it's sunny. It was beautiful today earlier. We didn't have snow, we had sunshine. But some of these fruits and vegetables and also fish, you will be able to find some vitamin D in, but not enough really. You need to get out in that sunshine and make sure you're getting plenty of vitamin D being created from the natural source within your body. So that's a quick skirt around of all these vitamins I mentioned. Pretty much. I didn't bring in folic acid, but that's green vegetables. You would be covered with most of that. And hopefully you begin to see having a variety of coloured foods or a rainbow of foods is really the way to find a lot of the vitamins within your diet. It's not that difficult if you eat colourful food. Now a little bit about minerals. So the minerals, I mentioned this word trace amounts. So trace amounts are very small amounts. You don't need a large amount. And actually, when plants grow, they take the minerals and every other kind of basic element from the soil. So I remember somebody talking about plants that grew around a silver mine, and when they were checking out what was in this plant leaf, they found lots and lots of silver. And silver has got some natural antibacterial properties, and many people actually will take colloidal silver in order to help them with any infections or anything like that. So they're only trace amounts. So I thought I would just give you a quick amount for each of the the minerals and tell you what they do. So iron, it activates immune cells, and that's a great thing because you want to make sure that they're active and ready, and the system is ready if you have any challenges. Of course, we probably know it's found in red meat, and I've mentioned kale, but also fish, beans, and broccoli. Okay, a little picture of where you might get iron. You can see the liver as well. Most people know that too. Selenium is another of these special antioxidant minerals. It helps support the immune system, and it helps to lower inflammation and enhances the immune system. Now, inflammation is the cause of many of the diseases we aren't perhaps aware of. But we do know what inflammation feels like. If we had a fever, we're very hot, and that's the body trying to really get rid of the bugs that it's got, isn't it? And you'll all be aware of that. You'll have all had a fever at some point in your lives. Most people have. Where do you find selenium? You find it in cereals, seafood, meat, and liver of poultry. So it tends to be a little bit of a different slant than the iron. Again, there's my mushrooms appearing, keep appearing. And zinc. Now, zinc supports the development of the immune cells. So we need to make sure that they're constantly being replenished. The body's very good. It doesn't like to have too many of anything. So it will have the memory with its antibodies, but also it will regenerate all the time. It's very good for recycling our bodies. Where will you find zinc? Well, zinc, most people will know, is found in many of the shellfishes like oysters and crab, but also lean meats, baked beans, and chickpeas. So there's lots of good sources here that are not just animal sourced, but they're also vegetable sourced. And you can see the picture there. And gosh, look at that, they're mushrooms. So all of these are very important for the immune system, and that's why. So a little bit now about mushrooms. I've been teasing you about this mighty mushroom. Now these mushrooms, I don't know how many of these you've tried. Some of them are fantastically teeny. I love some of these ones, and there's oyster ones there. A very big tip that I learned when I was at university, I did botany. Don't go out and just pick anything. You need to have a guide and make sure you know what you're doing, especially avoiding those colourful ones. You know what I mean? Make sure you're very, very careful and you know what you're doing. Or, you know what, go to the supermarket. And somewhere like Waitrose, you'll get a lot of different variations of that kind of the mushrooms. So they are a good source of vitamin D, as I said. They've got immune properties that I mentioned. Source of vitamin C. They contain selenium. They contain B vitamins. They're a good protein source. So, what the novel protein called corn, which you might have heard of, it's very famous now. That's actually a city in Leicestershire. It's actually where Rosemary Conley lives, which is a weird connection as well. But corn is made from something associated with the actual part C of the mushroom. So it's the underground. They've got equivalent to roots, but it's not roots. But that's the part that it's made from. So it's all mushroom based essentially, and it's a particular type of mushroom, and it's really good for protein for vegans and vegetarians that are not going to have any other really good sources of protein. But there are, of course, other ways to combine and find protein. But this is a good way of getting protein using a novel source, it's called. There's also some growing evidence that varieties can help with Alzheimer's. And I know that there are many supplements that are available. I don't personally take any mushrooms other than fresh ones because I'm very much let's eat food first. That's my approach. And if I need to take supplements, that's another thing. And of course, I've got a little bit of knowledge about it. So I'm quite happy to sort myself out. And my other half, who's on the call as well, will soon tell you how many bottles and things we go through because I know what we need. So I talked to you about different minerals and different vitamins and where they are in food. And really what I want to think about when you're eating food is to think about this rainbow. How do you incorporate the supportive nutrients in your diet? A wide range of foods, lots of oranges, reds and yellows. Berries are also fabulous, dark purples, fruits and vegetables. These are other kinds of really protective chemicals, so these purples and dark reds. Nuts and seeds, good lean protein, beans and pulses, and then go for a rainbow plate. So you can see there's tomatoes, there's oranges, lemons, orange peppers, there's courgettes, there's blueberries, blackberries, I think that's cherries, I don't know, it's just fantastic. So the other thing I want to point out to you is you can buy frozen berries and they have got fantastic range of nutrients in them. I know a lot of people have felt that frozen food was a second best, but the truth of it is frozen food is frozen pretty much as it's packed. If you've ever watched these programs, I think it's Greg Wallace does a lot of these kinds of programs where he goes and he sees how things are packed. Sometimes they're packed in the field as they're walking around picking them. That's how quickly they're actually stored. And peas, frozen peas, for example, are put straight into the freezer as soon as they're picked, and that retains the maximum level of vitamin C. Unfortunately, some of the vitamins that we have do disappear as they're left for longer. So frozen fruit and veg is a really good alternative if you want to have some in your freezer just as a backup. And certainly berries are great. You can do lots of things with berries, which are really good. So I've mentioned that. lovely rainbow. Let's add a few more hints and tips for you, some food hacks to add in more variety. If you're hungry, reach for fruit. Not tons, but do reach for fruit. It is a nice sweet alternative. My favourite is grapes. And if you want an interesting food experience, freeze your grapes because they will take a wee while to get through, but they're fun. It's a bit fun. Adding colour, as I mentioned, lots of colours when you're eating food. Go for 2 or 3 or 4 vegetables. This 5 a day is just an arbitrary figure. You can have as many as you want, as many varieties, that is. Fussy eaters might not like foods that are obviously having vegetables in them. And I used to have this great book until I lent it to somebody about how to hide vegetables. And it included things which you probably do anyway, and that's pureeing soup. So if you make a soup, you can puree it and then you don't see what's in it, but you get the benefits of all the vitamins and minerals, so definitely. Or you can puree in vegetables into red sauces for pastas, or you can cook them and chop them up into smaller pieces so they kind of disappear. So you can do that quite easily. And I think most children actually have quite bland diets unless we introduce all these flavors to them. You can imagine my poor children, what they get offered. And be adventurous. Try small amounts of new foods. I think some people come a cropper because they buy something. They buy a new variety of pears or buy fresh apricots or something, and they buy a box of them or a punnet or something. And they go like, I only like one. I didn't like too many. Just buy 1 or 2. Try them. I know there's some great greengrocers. And when we get back to proper shopping and all the stuff that we'd like to do, they'll be happy to sell you 1 pear or 1 apricot, just trying it. And if you don't like it, well, you've tried it. And they say that sometimes you need to try things 12 or more times to actually know if you really don't like them. And being grown-ups, I suppose we have to really show an example to children in our lives if that's the case, or to the fussy eaters, which we do have some of in the world still. Use creative substitute is another way. So adding broccoli rice. It's tremendously easy to make broccoli rice or even cauliflower rice. Chop it up and whack it into a blender or grate it if you feel so inclined. And both of these add a little bit extra flavour to your food and they give you more of the good nutrients. Broccoli especially because it's one of the other superfoods. You could try sweet potato mash or mixed sweet and white potato mash. And that will give you a different flavour combination and it will also give you a bit more of the immune nutrients, the A's, the vitamin A's. Or you could try mixed rices, that sort of stuff. And these are the kinds of things. Oh, forgot the last one. Drizzling tahini over other veggies. Tahini is lovely if you've not had it, especially over sweet potato. It's super delicious. And also in things like cauliflower, if you roast cauliflower, also lovely. These are just some fun fruits, which I can never remember all the names of them. This dragon fruit, I remember when I first tried it, I thought it was like a kiwi fruit, but it was all white inside. The seeds are the same size as a kiwi fruit, but I thought it was great. I really don't know what all of these are, I have to confess, but they do look quite interesting, certainly. And I thought just for, looking at again, I would add in a little vitamin chart. There's loads and loads of vitamin charts everywhere. And that's a very, very basic one, but it does give you some ideas of where you get some of your vegetables, fruits and vegetables. Where you get some of your nutrients, certainly your vitamins from. So if you're not completely sure, it is an American one. We don't tend to call things B7, B6, B9. They tend to be folic acid and biotin, I think is that one. I don't know what that one is, but they tend to be a little bit different named, but it doesn't matter. It shows you again a colourful chart with lots of different possibilities and it gives you some ideas. Okay, a quick drink of water. Okay, so just a little bit about supplements. Now, supplements, as I said before, you need to check with your doctor, your health professional, before you take any supplements at all. So keep reminding you of that. But I will always say to people, a supplement is on top of a normal diet or a healthy or a colourful diet. Use the freshest produce rather, or frozen, as I said, retains more nutrients, which is always very useful. Ask for advice. Be careful of some of the vitamin shops. I won't name any names because I don't want to, but some of them do not sell good quality supplements. You can tell by the price of them. And often they're filled up with some chalky-like substances that are not harmful, but it means that they're not very effective and they're also not very good quality. So be careful when you're buying. If you're buying something for a penny, just wonder what the quality is like. Also, on the same note, beware of the internet, because there are many, many suppliers on the internet. And if you do want some advice about the best brands and suppliers and such like, then I can certainly give you a website to have a look at that has a good range of good supplements. But supplements are literally on top of the food. It's always food first, as far as I'm concerned, always, because we've got to, you don't want to live in synthetic chemicals, even though some might say that they're okay. I still feel that you get more benefit from having the food, and there's the bioavailability of all different nutrients at the same time when you're eating these foods. Okay, so let's move on to going forward. Obviously, we've all had some changes to make in our lives. And I know that people have been talking about pandemic eating. Have your habits changed? What's happened? We've all, been subject to different environments and different types of foods. And there's been lots of studies done. And this is one from Italy, where they had over 3,500 people responded, and almost half of them reported gaining weight. In a Scottish study, they found that well over half of young people are eating more confectionery. And in fact, I believe that they're not selling as many of the small packs that they used to. They're selling many more bigger packs, not multi-packs, in the supermarkets. Almost half of people are eating more cakes and biscuits, and about a third are drinking more alcohol. It's interesting. I don't think people are drinking as much alcohol as people might have imagined, because it's such a sociable thing to do, isn't it? You're not going to sit drinking on your own necessarily. So I think that kind of makes sense. But here's an interesting one. 60% made no changes to their fruit and vegetable intake. So they continue to eat exactly how they'd eaten before. I don't know if that's good, or I don't know if it's bad. But then I thought I'd put a picture of cake up for you. That's one of my favourite cakes. Just because I love making cakes, but I also am very careful not to have too many. I have to say, I think in winter, I've certainly put on a bit more weight than I did over summer. But then in summer, I had my little vegetable plot and I was in the garden an awful lot more. So that's really part of, living a different way over summer. Here's some positive effects. Almost half more people are cooking at home, which is great. Some people, about the same actually, interestingly, are eating fewer takeaways. I don't know if that's connected. No idea. We don't know if this is short term or not. Things will change. If we have to go back to work, I know certainly for me, I'm not working at the campus just now. I am working at home. So my commute is literally downstairs to upstairs. That's what my commute is. I have no travel time. So I do have a bit more time in theory, not really in practice, because I'm working at different hours, I feel, than I used to. But when we go back to normality, and I do this like this because who knows what normality will look like, then we will have other considerations. So will people still be cooking at home, or will takeaways increase again because people haven't got the time to do it? So the other thing I want to think about is when you cook at home, sometimes the portions you make are larger. Although you might have less fried foods, because I don't have a fryer anymore. Years ago I used to. Somebody else had told me they have what's called an air fryer, so they can still make chips. I tend to be put it in the oven type of person at the best of times, or pressure cooker. I don't tend to deep fry anything. But obviously, if you're not getting the takeaways, you might have less fried food in your diet. And in a survey, most people that responded said that they wanted to eat more healthily. And you can see there's lots and lots of people now doing cooking programs and cooking things on YouTube. If you ever look on any of these channels, more and more people are doing how to cook things, and some interesting stuff, to be honest, that I've never ever heard of. Now, I also want to touch on a touchy subject, which is obesity. Now, obesity is a horrible word. It's based on a ratio of your height and your weight. And it's a number. And you're not defined by the number. And it doesn't tell you what your fat levels are. All it does is tell you a ratio. So you could be a 6'6" American football player with massive muscles and be technically obese. Or you could be a very small person that is overweight and be obese. So you can both have the same number, but really one of them is more healthy than the other because they've got more muscle. So normally, the World Health Organization recommends reducing foods associated with weight gain, which tend to be the ones that are more processed on the whole and less fresh. A big number there of adults worldwide are overweight or obese, and that is a body mass index of over 25, 1.9 billion. It's a very big number. So the thing is, stored fat is what's called pro-inflammatory. So it's not as good to be a little bit heavier because it reduces the effectiveness of the immune system. So you could be doing all the right work, but if you've got a little bit too much, and it tends to be around your belly, which is the most difficult stuff to move, I have to say. And physically, it might actually impair your lung capacity, they say. I'm trying to be positive here, by the way. And obviously, type 2 diabetes is part of that. We have this contrary thing where lockdown is actually reducing healthier lifestyles. And I went for a walk and I pushed myself up a hill, and at the top I was gasping like I'd never walked in my life before, because my commute is so short and the campus is enormous, and I'm always up and down stairs in the campus. So it is a difficult thing when we've been given these particular restrictions. And that's a chart you'll have seen before with the different weights in meters and inches and so on, that I won't go into there. But it's just, that's probably why they say it is a risk factor, because your immune system is a little bit more compromised because of it's pro-inflammatory. So just wanted to fill you in with that. So second last slide, believe it or not. I hope you're all still with me. Hope I haven't lost too many of you. How can we help ourselves? Well, there's somebody doing the hoovering, having a wee dance themselves with an air guitar, essentially. So keeping active, if you've got stairs, you use them. Very easy to say. Try and get a daily walk into your routine. I went out this evening. It was actually lovely and fresh, and I needed a break from my computer. And I always recommend that you take regular breaks if you're like me and you work on a computer all day. Try and find something online that you want to do. Well, it's really lovely to have you here, and we're all sitting and having a nice conversation, but there's other things you can do. I do yoga and other classes online, which I really love, just to keep me moving. Watch when you're shopping and be selective. Try and plan your meals. Try and think about the 80-20 rule. It's one of my favorite rules. 80% of the time we use 20% of carpet, for example. Weird. So if you look around your house, you'll know there's areas that you walk on all the time, but that's only about 20% of your carpet. But I like the rule 80-20 when it comes to talking about food, because if you 80% of the time, if you go for the most healthy meals, then 20% of the time you can allow other things to come in, because you're having, on the whole, more balance in your diet by having the better things on the majority of your time. Also, keeping in touch with people is so important. I mean, it's lovely to have a chat with people. You haven't seen them for ages, and it's really nice to see people, and lifting the phone to speak to somebody, trying to keep in touch and seeing what have you been doing, more of the same. Have you finished what you did yesterday? Yeah, yesterday was more of the same. So I'm still at it, still having on. And I think it's just really important even to share this experience with people and just connect. It's really, really good. Find a new hobby like painting or needlework. I must confess, I've actually really enjoyed learning painting online. And it's one of these things that it takes me right out of the right brain into the left brain. And I like being in a more arty type environment. I'm not very good, but I really, really enjoy it. And that's the most important thing. And there's lots of programs about it online, and I'm really enjoying it, as well as watching programs about that. So here's the final slide, people. Summing up. Help yourself to a rainbow of foods. Think of colours. Add garlic. It is Zoom proof. I thought that was quite I love garlic. I'm never short of garlic in the house. Look at lean meats and proteins where you can. Get some good fats and oils. That's really, fish oils and plant oils are really, really good. Sunflower seeds and that sort of thing. Keeping active and engaging your brain, which is what we're hopefully doing tonight. You know what? Be kind to yourself, because it's tough just now, and we need to all be kind to ourselves. Look after yourself. Keep yourself warm when you're watching television. Cuddle up a bit. Keep in touch with friends. But most important, keep calm and breathe.